Hi everyone, Perez here again from Branding for the People, and I want to welcome you to my next interview as part of this whole series that we're doing and talking with VIP clients of mine, colleagues, and people who I admire and respect, and that might provide insight or knowledge or services even that complement the work that we do here at Branding for the People. Branding is, a holistic lifelong process that you can go through to help you achieve more results in your business. And so I want to bring on different speakers and colleagues to shed some light on some other layers to add as you're thinking about building your brand and your business. So today I'm interviewing Ash Ghandehari. So let me just give you a more formal bio, and then I'll bring on Ash and have him chat, and then we'll go right into the interview. So Ash is the founder and visionary thinker of The Power in Change. And he has firsthand experience in the power of change and has already achieved much success in implementing regular changes to grow both personally and professionally. And so he has a degree in mass communication, business management, a wealth of experience in marketing and sales and business development. One of the things that him and I also share in common is that we both work in the entrepreneurial space, but Ash also has consulted and worked with a lot of mid-size and Fortune 500 companies across a range of industries, from technology to mass media, food and beverage manufacturing, and specialty team building and managing change, and a whole range of things. So there's a wealth of knowledge and insights that we're going to get from Ash today. So Ash, welcome.
Hi, Reed. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. First of all, thank you for that great introduction. Sometimes it sounds greater than it is, but in reality, I have worked with a lot of companies and helped them manage through change and also implement changes and use the power of change to really grow. And I also want to really compliment you on these interviews. They are fantastic. They add value. So thank you for doing this.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's my pleasure. And, thank you for making time. I know you are about to be taking on another journey in your life
Absolutely.
with the new baby. So
That's right. And talking about change, yep, that's a big shift that's happening for Shanda and I, and we're very excited about that.
yeah, and I'm
So
very
thank
excited for you guys as well. So we'll probably have to do another interview several months right now to see what's changed.
That's right. That's right.
All right, good. Well, let's jump right in it too, because I'm going to ask you some sort of. This is definitely a conversation, and rather than kind of talking about a lot of these interviews, I'm focusing less on let's talk about how great we are, which we're all great people for sure, but I really want to provide value and some tips and insights for people listening on this interview, and you bring a wealth of experience to do that. So let me just start with a few questions. The first question I have is just from your perspective. Talk to me about your point of view or your view of branding and or the importance of branding for businesses, whether it's a Fortune 500 company, a mid-sized company, or an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I think so. I'm not a branding expert by any means, Bree, but so my experience with branding and working with the brands that I've worked with in the past is really that it's really their image, their being, what they are in a marketplace, who they are as a brand, and who are their potential customers and who they appeal to. So it's a really important facet in terms of the overall establishing an organization or being an organization, because you may evolve as a brand, and ensuring that brand promise evolves along the way and your consumers can follow you and know who they are, and when they purchase you, they can it is part of their individuality. So I think overall, as a brand and brand image and a promise, those factors are extremely important in being in a marketplace and having a representation and an image along with the fulfillment of that offering, whatever that may be. Does that kind of answer your question
Yeah,
in what I
absolutely.
see it as?
No, that's a great. I mean, obviously, I'm not by any means trying to say that you're a branding expert, but
Yeah.
as a whether you're a consumer of branding or you've worked with some big brands or the work that you do complements the brand building process for companies, you have a perspective in terms of the importance of it. everything you just
Yeah,
mentioned.
absolutely. And let me share with you an example that is, as a consumer, and also I ended up actually, I was working for this organization for several years and ended up being a pretty high level middle manager, large organization. And my experience with this organization was, there was a brand promise, and their brand promise was really customers for life, earning a customer and retaining that customer, and it's a sage, I guess would be. So the promise was in a sense a trusted brand that will last.
Okay.
In a lot of ways, when I saw in their product development and their fulfillment along the way, whether it's to the channel and ultimately in the customer's hand, consumer's hand, they never fulfilled that promise. And for that reason, they virtually went non-existing in that category, in the consumer category. Now, their business division, government division, all that survived. However, when you look at it from a consumer perspective and their consumer product line, being in Best Buy, Staples, Office Depot, Office Max, all these major retail channels, even though they had the power to get in, they didn't last. And simply because they weren't delivering on that brand promise of customers for life. The product would get purchased, and within the first year, it would stop working or not working any longer. And so
that's not good.
That's not a good thing. So to me, when I think of branding, it's so important. It's such an important area, but it's also important to go beyond just a brand promise. It's important to be able to have the right strategy in place from the product standpoint goes, the pricing standpoint, from the placement standpoint, and also the promotion standpoint, that's communicating constantly what your brand promise is and you're delivering on that promise. So in the context and my opinion personally is on this area, and my brand is all about peak performance. In order to have peak performance in your product category or service category, we're talking to, I'm assuming, a lot of coaches and entrepreneurs. If you want to fulfill that brand promise, it's really important to have this strategy of your brand across the product, the price, place, and promotion of the product or service.
Well, there's definitely, there's a range of people that are listening in. So, there's coaches and speakers and authors, but there's also sort of other types of small businesses. Some of them are service-based. Some of them offer products, clothing, wear, and there's people who run massage practices or healthcare clinics, right?
Right.
But your point is still the same. They may not have a product per se, or they might have some form of product. But what you're saying is important in that you have a brand promise, and it needs to be fulfilled across everything that you do.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Absolutely.
So now what's interesting, so I'll just kind of highlight something here, because you can have the best branding in the world, right? Mm-hmm. But the example that you just shared is an example of how branding can't solve everything for your business. Because at the end of the day, you still also have to deliver on what you say you're going to do. You still have to have great products, great service, great customer service, the functional benefits of what your product, service, or program, or whatever it is that you're offering has to deliver what it's saying it's going to deliver. And you can't put all that responsibility on the quote-unquote brand, right?
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with that. It would be, let's talk about one of the biggest brands there is, Disney.
Right.
What would happen tomorrow if Disney's pricing strategy completely changed? I think if you look at Disney as a pricing strategy, it's very in line with what the brand represents. It's a premier product. It's premier services. And when I look at it, compared to, let's say, Knott's Berry Farm or Magic Mountain, they're very clear on where they stand in terms of product. They're not discounting regularly. They're very clear on where they stand. So what would happen if they completely discounted? And I can tell you what happens because I actually was working there when I was in college.
Yeah.
They did a really interesting Halloween special in conjunction with a radio station.
Okay.
And I would argue that neither of those two were in line. So their pricing strategy for the day was not in line, and the radio station they ended up promoting with was not in line with their overall brand image. The complete park turned into chaos for that day. Every employee that was on seasonal ended up being there for the day, the customer interactions were poor. There was loss prevention was the ultimate high. I mean, so it was really interesting what happened just because they were not aligned with their brand when they made this huge promotion. And we've seen other companies make similar mistakes. Coca-Cola has made this mistake in the past. So I really do believe that, you know, it's not a hearsay sale when you do the brand. You need to really do all the other areas to be aligned in delivering.
Gotcha. All right. So, you know, obviously you and I can talk about sort of big companies and the importance of how they bring the brand. And one might say, well, they have the budget or they have some room to be able to make some sort of failures or at least recover from some of their failures. Let's bring it down to on the other side of the spectrum. You're talking with a solo entrepreneur or, you know, entrepreneur with maybe a few, you know, people on their team, and they're delivering some kind of service-based offering, or it could be a product for sure.
Sure.
What might be some, you know, you talked earlier about sort of having strategy, you know, then, you know, clarity of your brand and then strategy, and then you kind of moved it further down along the lines of tactics and objectives, right? So, but let's just say that one is clear on their brand. Are there any tips in terms of how to go about building a strategy or approaching your strategy as a small business owner?
Yeah, and I talk about all these different areas. So I talk about the product strategy, the price strategy, the placement strategy, and also the promotion strategy, and how do you portray your image as what your brand stands for. You know, and I could really, you know, we could elaborate on all of these, but I think the most important thing when you're dealing with an entrepreneurial business, and this is what I deal with as well. I have a number of entrepreneurs that I work with in addition to organizations that are established. And I'll bring up one example for this case, and we can kind of, so that it can be visualized in terms of how I'm consulting this one example. I have a entrepreneur, service-driven business, and they've had a strategy in mind in terms of growing their business, and it's a surgical practice. So I think it's kind of aligned with maybe some of your other customers that you're referring to. So they have this promotion strategy in place, and this promotion strategy happens to be around direct mail campaign. And so when they're looking to launch it, and by the way, so what's relevant here is their marketing, or his brand is really a premier surgical practice. He has a beautiful office in one of the best locations in Southern California. He is specialized. He's done a great job of focusing on one specialty and really showcases that. And it's not plastic surgery, believe it or not. It's actually hernia. So it's a general surgeon. So he has a really a great brand image, and it's a private surgical facility. There's 5 beds, and he's looking to market to other physicians to really be able to attract their customer base. And his whole brand promise is premier care for your patients to ensure that you retain and hold your patients for life. So he has this promotion strategy in place. Really wasn't on target with his brand and what he stood for. You know, he wants to send a mailer. It's really an educational mailer, and I think it's great. But what we talk about is, okay, so how does this really portray your brand? Let's put together a site specifically for this project. And so develop a campaign around this that really highlights what your brand and your organization stands for. You're more likely to get the referrals, and make it a campaign versus a couple of direct mailers. So what I like to...
By the way, just to clarify, is this an online campaign or an offline campaign? Is it also...
It is a combination of both online and offline. So instead of sending a mailer with just the letter, we are now sending mailer in addition to showcasing the surgical facility and how nice it is, the staff, with some direct response to go online to register and also be able to see more pictures, get a virtual tour. And also, now we're also doing more on the educational side for these other physicians by giving them case studies on how they can improve patient continuity and patient care, and how you see how now that's aligned with the brand versus just, hey, by the way, I offer this surgery. You should just send people my way. So we're trying to really communicate that brand in the promotion campaign. So when I'm working with entrepreneurs that want to really expand their brand and extend, I really talk about focus on one area, whether it's the product, whether it's the price, whether it's your placement of the product, wherever that may be, or by the way, that's service as well. When I say product, I mean services as well. Whether it's a promotion for your product or services, how can you make that really true to your brand? Focus on that area and get that down pat.
I like that because, and then would you say that if someone, has multiple products, would you say that part of what you're also recommending is to focus in on and master one first before extending, or are you also just saying that it's better to focus on one, as a small business owner, it's better to focus on one area, one product or service?
I always recommend focusing on one area, and I'll share with you why that is, and maybe slightly off topic, because what I've noticed with not only entrepreneurs and individuals is that when you are focusing on more than one item, it takes you just much longer to accomplish that objective and goal.
That's right. That's right.
And so when even when in my again, I coach on peak performance for businesses and entrepreneurs. So to get peak performance, it's really important to focus on the one area, develop key objectives, time-bound goals to be able to accomplish that. The average person that makes a New Year's resolution, it takes them over 10 years to accomplish.
Wow. 10 years.
And that's, by the way, and 80% give up after the second week. And there's research on that. So when it comes to business,
that's an important statistic because a lot of people not a lot of people, but I would say I hear a lot that some entrepreneurs are kind of looking for the easy way out or the silver bullet or the magic bullets that's going to help them achieve great success and whatnot. And there's this strategy and this tactic, and a lot of it you could say is due to a lack of focus. And I know you're all about peak performance. It's due to a lack of focus and not having clear objectives that is bound by or that's measured in or evaluated within a time frame.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. And I'll tie that back into branding. If you notice, most organizations, whether it's a product or service, small or large, you'll notice quite often they go and look at their competitor website. They do a SWOT analysis, for example.
Right.
And you look at the competitor website.
For those who aren't familiar with that would be like a strengths, weakness, opportunities, threat analysis, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So they go out and look at they do a SWOT analysis, and that's great, and I believe in that. However, it's really important that you stay in line with your brand, where you started at the beginning, because there was a reason. There was either a need in the marketplace for you to stand in a certain place, or else you wouldn't have even started the business. So it's important to have that identity and be true to that identity through the process, whether it's the product, the price, the place, or promotion, those 4 key areas, and communicate that regularly. And often I see people jump off that wagon just to do a Me Too strategy. And when you do a Me Too, you're kind of getting off target, in my opinion.
Sometimes it actually even hurts your reputation or your brand, right? If you're just another Me Too kind of brand, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So if trust and having and I'll give another example. If you're a coach or a service provider, and you're trying to establish in a marketplace an identity, and you are the rebel of your brand is the rebel, stay true to that and communicate in that same format. You'll attract the audience. If you are one day the rebel, and the next day you're communicating in a totally different way,
right.
Your website changes from having this rebel look to a completely different look,
right.
and then you're confusing your audience,
right.
And you're less likely to get the business.
There's so much gold, and if you're listening on this interview, I want to replay back or just highlight a few things that Ash is saying, because this is something that I've been, that comes through in the strategy work that I do with a lot of my clients. It comes through, sort of like the behind the scenes as opposed to, working with someone. But this is so critical and so important. What you're saying is once you define what your brand is and what it's not, and you're clear who your target audiences are and who they're not, it helps you to make decisions in your business on a daily and ongoing basis, right? Like this is, this is off brand and on brand. And so, yes, you could do a SWOT analysis and you can sort of look at the competitive landscape. But if you're trying to establish yourself in the marketplace, it really starts with clarity on your brand. Now, self-serving as that is for me to say, it is, it really is that level of clarity. And I see a lot of small businesses, and I consulted with a lot of them or have had sort of preliminary consultation calls with them. They're all over the place. They're trying to do everything. They're trying to offer everything. They're trying to do this. Like this week is, podcasting, and then this week is sort of, a mastermind, or this week is like a product and passive income. So they're all useful, but I love what you said in terms of spreading themselves thin and not focusing on a singular thing. So
it's especially important for that entrepreneur or small organization. Especially important because you have very small amount of room for adjustment. And a larger organization can absorb it. They absorb it in their other offerings or their other divisions. Small organizations, we don't have that luxury. A small off-market or off-brand strategy can kind of be doomsday in some ways. And I hate to paint that picture, but that's just reality.
Good. Perfect. I love this. I mean, I know you and I could talk about this part all day long.
Absolutely.
So there's a few things, right? So you're zeroing in on sort of the product, placement, promotion. What would you say are some other sort of, if I want to frame it in terms of tips or even just mistakes to avoid in whether it's the promotion piece of it or whether it's the placement piece of it or if it's the product or services piece of it, are there some sort of things that you've seen over the course of your career, just some top mistakes to avoid, if you will?
Yeah, the number one mistake actually is, and it's kind of my pet peeve, and I've consulted my sister and many other businesses on, and I see it quite often, and it happens even after you know about it.
Right.
For this, here it is. Pricing.
Okay.
I see quite often, and we're talking about especially entrepreneurs, and if your branding strategy is, you're the premier product, you're the premier service, you're the whatever it may be, and I often see it with premier
like premium brands?
Premium brands. Often see it with premium brands. Discounting. And even especially when it comes to service-driven areas, because as they're trying to establish the business or they're in their first spike up, often they discount their services. And some people, I've heard other coaching companies and other coaches say, you got to know your value, and I totally agree with that. It happens both on the product side and the service side.
Right.
So often they these entrepreneurs or businesses face a moment. They have extra inventory or additional time. I don't know what it is, but they often start discounting long before they have a chance to win the business. You got to give yourself a shot.
That's huge. I just want to comment on that because as a, I'll use our agency as an example. Is I'm clear that we're not the least expensive branding agency. And I'm also clear that we're not at the same pricing as the largest brand consulting firm in the world, right? Because we're in the markets that we're dealing with. But I think there was one client there's a few clients that have said this to me. They said they were shopping around between me and another few other agencies, and these other agencies, when they mentioned their price, it was in the veins of sort of discounting or at a lower price point. And perception-wise, they compared that to what I quoted in an estimate, and they were like, wow, I'm really going to get some value and some service from this agency, and you got to pay for what you get. And they didn't go with these other firms because they were cheap or discounted or inexpensive, if you will.
Yeah, and not to say that and not to say you need to be always premiumly priced. There are ways to do that tactfully, right? Having a strategy around that again. See, that's why I talk a lot about strategy, because in order to have peak performance, you just need to have the right strategy, tactics, and objectives in place to work along that spectrum to make sure that you're not sacrificing your brand and your brand image and identity at a cost.
That's great.
So, but I absolutely agree with it. It just happens way too often. And, I'll give you an example. I'll use my sister's company, great organization. She's done amazing things in the business world. She did Betty White's 90th birthday. I mean, she was the event agency that was hired to collaborate with to develop Betty White's 90th birthday. Yet, after that event, she was still like discounting for some organizations, and I was just going, I'm kind of blown away by this, why are you doing this? And she goes, well, I need to attract more customers. And I'm like, well, not necessarily. You could still be the premier brand that you are and just attract fewer customers and charge what your real true value is. You don't need to earn every single business. You need to make sure you earn the businesses that are matching with your overall brand image and strategy.
Love it. Yeah. Quality over quantity. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And now today she is. I mean, today she's working with Tom Shoes, Oakley, a couple of really large chemical organizations, chemical companies, in addition to a lot of entertainment companies. So she's really now established herself as the premier service in that area. And she's an entrepreneur, very small firm, 5 employees. So I think that might be very much aligned with some of the customers that you're talking about.
That's an awesome example, and it all goes back to pricing. And it's funny because I share so many examples of how, like, the 18 karat gold earrings. When this professor at Kellogg School of Management showed a bunch of students, asked a bunch of students how much did they pay for this 18 karat gold earrings, unbranded. It was a certain price, like $550, and then it increased about, I want to say like 80% when it was Tiffany, or it increased 60% when it was Tiffany, and then it was Walmart, it decreased 85%. So it's not that you have to be the Tiffany's of the world. It's not that you have to be the Walmarts of the world. You just have to know who your market is and what's the pricing strategy for that market.
Exactly. It's who you are, right? This will blow your mind. So, there's a case study that I read, and I don't know exact numbers, but I recall there was, I believe it was a small screw.
Right.
And I don't know if you've read this before, but it's a Harvard case study, and this small screw was developed, and it has certain breaking points, and you can literally buy it, let's say, at Home Depot for 10 cents.
Sure.
It could literally be priced at, because it didn't cost much to develop. It's just was developed with certain technology and know-how to be able to withstand serious pressure. Ended up being marketed to the oil industry as a replacement part that was breaking every 2 years or 3 years. And I don't recall if it was a screw, but I believe it was some kind of a screw of some sort, or hardware. And that same part ended up selling for hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Wow.
So it just tells you when there is a need and you can fulfill this, and it's kind of in line with what you're saying, when there is a need and you can fulfill a certain need in a marketplace, you have quite a bit of pricing flexibility or strategy to be able to implement, to be able to earn that business or fulfill that need in a marketplace. It's just important for you to understand who you are so that you can really utilize that avenue, that road, that path, whatever it may be, to achieve your overall business objectives, whatever revenue goals it may be, whatever growth you may be looking for. It's just understanding that, having clarity in that, understanding who you are in the marketplace and where you are representing, whether you're selling to Home Depot or you're selling to these specialty areas, and having the right strategy around the price and all the other things that we've talked about to be able to accomplish your goals.
I love this particular interview because there's so much gold in what you just said, and it's quite distinct from some of the other interviews that I've been doing where we're really focusing on, well, there's a lot that we focused on, but one thing that I really want people to sort of lift from this, if there's one thing that you get from this interview in the context of building a brand, in the context of peak performance, is knowing your pricing strategy, knowing your it is all of it, the placement and the
Yeah.
positioning of your but if there's one thing that really is distinct from what other people are talking about, definitely play this whole section back on the pricing thing of really knowing who you are and then who you're targeting, because that makes a huge difference, that can inform obviously the business results that you want to have. So thank you for sharing all of that, Ash.
Thank you, Ree. Thank you for having me join. I appreciate that. And I think if you just focus on one area in your business, and I'll leave your audience with one last tip, just focus on one of these aspects and have clarity on where you want to stand and follow it through. Give it the appropriate time. Often we, as entrepreneurs, get distracted by what others are doing, competitors are doing, and shifts in the marketplace, and we quickly adjust. And just as we're about to have success, we're doing that. So try to stay focused and have a good life.
There,
And
there
make
you
it
have
happen.
it. You have it from the gentleman he's all about peak performance, who is a Iron Man athlete, and quite successful on all the business ventures. So if someone wanted to learn a little bit more about you, Ash, where should we send them to?
Yeah, so what I'm offering, and I'd love to hear from some of your audience, is at thepowerinchange.com. So again, that's thepowerinchange.com. And there's a little yellow button on the lower right-hand side. What I'm offering is basically to you, to help you in your business, a 30-minute strategy call, 30 minutes one-on-one with me. You can click on contact and schedule a time with me, and we'll just spend half an hour just talking about your next strategy and how you can be true to your brand, and put together some key items you can focus on for the next 6 months to a year to help you succeed in whatever your key objectives are for the year.
Great. Awesome. So thepowerinchange.com, we'll also put that at the bottom of this post where this video is. And if you could do me a favor, if you could just leave your comments, leave a comment or two, let us know what you got from this interview and if it was of value for you. And that way we'd be happy to continue to add value as we do more of these interviews. So that being said, Ash, thank you for your time. Look forward to seeing you really soon, and enjoy the rest of your day. And for everyone else, stay tuned for our next interview. Thank you for joining, and we'll speak with you soon.